Okay, so I just have to let you know that I have to, record you beforehand.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, first question, so what is your name?
Bernadine Mistor, Mistor.
When were you born?
1940.
Okay. How do we know each other?
You're my granddaughter.
Okay, next question.
Huh?
Where were you when John F. Kennedy was shot?
I was working for the gas company, Michigan Consolidated Gas, and as a home economist, so I did home visits. And that day, I did not have a car, so I used one of the company cars. And when I was done, had to take it back to their garage, and then they would take me back to the office. And I was sitting there, and they had their speakers on, or their whatever, through the building, and it sounded like a soap opera or something, and they were talking about all this commotion and all this, I don't know, but it was just really strange, and I couldn't figure it out until finally, after about 5 minutes, they did say, yes, the president has been shot. And oh my gosh. And that's how I found out.
Okay. So then what was your initial reaction?
Shock.
Okay. Any just that?
Well, it was just shock because you just never, I know Lincoln was assassinated, but in my lifetime, it was like this never happened.
Yeah.
And for a public figure to be killed was just really unthinkable, I think.
Yeah. Okay. What do you recall or remember from the following days?
Watched a lot of TV and saw on Sunday morning when they were taking him out of jail, whoever, it was like the shooting. I remember that it was Rudy or I forget who they were, but this guy just came out of nowhere and shot the suspect that they thought killed the president.
Yeah.
And that also was shocking because that was on national television.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And then it's like you watch the funeral, and at that time it was like President Kennedy and Jacqueline where they had these two little kids, and it was like they called it Camelot, and to see that just destroyed, and it's like because she was no longer the president's wife, it was like almost when the president died, it was Lyndon Johnson was sworn in, and it was like they had to move all of Kennedy's stuff out of the White House. It was like surreal. It was, and you couldn't grieve or anything. Like for her, you felt she couldn't grieve. It was like she had to find someplace to live. It was really crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine. So did you think he was an effective leader? Why or why not?
Well, at the time, I was young, and I thought, yes, he was an effective leader. It was because he stopped the Russians from shipping the warheads or doing these arms shipments to Cuba, where he was willing to stand up and say, if you come closer, we'll just destroy you, your boats or whatever. And they did turn around and go back. So basically that was one of the things. And besides that, he was Catholic, and so that was another thing. It was the first Catholic president, so that was almost like when we had the first Polish Pope.
Okay, so next question. Do you feel his legacy, or what do you feel is his legacy to the American people?
What is his legacy? What is his legacy? I don't think he left. That would be the only legacy that he left, that he stopped the Russians from shipping these arms to the Cubans. And it was, what was his legacy? He was a good person. He made good relations with other countries.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that's a good one. Okay. Last question. What impact do you think he had on the civil rights movement for African Americans and Latinos?
Well, technically, I don't think as a Democrat he had that much to do with it. Because at the time it was the Republicans who were fighting for civil rights, but somehow it got mixed up, and it said now it's like they believe the Democrats did it, but it was the Republicans who were pushing for civil rights. And I don't remember what his civil rights issues were at that time.
Okay. Well, thank you. My interview made me feel about history. It made me feel like how these things really weren't that long ago, and how it was such a huge event in history, and how no one ever thought something like that would happen during their lifetimes, but it did, and it was just such a big event. But it was only 53. It wasn't long ago. It was only 53 years ago. And then after my interview with as my grandma said, she didn't know much about his policies because she said she was working, and then she was pregnant and already had my mom at the time. So it made me realize he was a good leader and many people liked him, and she liked the fact that he averted the missile crisis, and he seemed overall like a very effective leader and loved by the people. To me, President Kennedy left a good legacy on the world. It was he did some very positive changes while he was in office, and he had even bigger and better plans to come. He had very good foreign relations, and he was trying to do right with the civil rights movement. So I think he had a very good legacy.